Chilltown, and we are here for you. So, as you can read the title, we're going to talk about Bud versus Canelo. Well, there's a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about specifically the undercard and some of the fights that maybe some of the mainstream content creators aren't really focusing on. So, TJ, what are you most like? Which one of those fights? Because I mean, we could pick and choose every single one of them right now. Which one do you want to start
Yeah.
with?
Let me say this first, because you and I, we haven't discussed these fights, which I like better. So I don't know your take. You don't know my take. I think that makes for a much better conversation for all
Yeah.
these undercard fights. And I don't know how people rate the undercard or the prelims, but I actually think they did a very good job matchmaking. If you look, the odds are very close. I think there's some really interesting fights that could go either way. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the undercard. I really am. In most cards nowadays, you already know who's winning beforehand. You're not looking at competitive fights. I'm really looking forward to the undercard, man. There's some good matchups. I think there's going to be some upsets.
Is there? So yeah, when we're looking at the odds, and this is what I was, you know, this this is one of those fight cards to where not all the time we get fight cards that break through to the mainstream. You go on your Facebook, you go on your Instagram, you see your boy from high school who doesn't know shit about boxing. They're talking about it. You know what I'm saying? So um, I already featured on the channel. I'm glad that you told everybody. It's not like guys, TJ and I already know who we're picking. So far on my breakdown videos, I did Billy versus Martinez, and I just uploaded Serhi versus Adams 2. But then you got there's a heavyweight fight. You got the Young Bucks, Callum Walsh. We know Dana White's boy taking on Vargas. Um,
And
and
Steve Nelson is fighting Rico Santana.
let's. Do
Another
you
great
want to
fight.
start?
Yeah.
This is one. So this is one I've been going back and forth with one of my mates. Is Steve Nelson versus Rico, and I tweeted about like I feel based on the odds, I think Santana's a live dog. Without getting into, we can break it down analytically on why I feel like that. What's your take so far on that fight?
I mean, so the style of first of all, Rico Santana, if you watch him fight, he does not look like a Cuban fighter at all. You would think that. I think he's based out of Texas. He fights like a Texan or a Mexican American. He's just all gas, like limited footwork, and he's just throwing bombs. And at the same time, if you think about Steven Nelson, he's really similar in the same aspect. He likes to come forward. If you look at him at that Diego Pacheco fight, he's got a good chin and he throws bombs. He just kept pressing and pressing, and he won those rounds really off the heart. So Rico Santana and Steven Nelson, I think they're going to meet in the center of the ring, and I think they're going to throw bombs at each other. And that in itself is going to make it a 50-50 fight because I think they're both capable of hurting each other, and I think they both have good work rates and good chins. So to that aspect, I think if you have Rico Santana at plus money, which he is, I think that's a good value play. Kind of what you were alluding to, like there could be an upset here.
100%. I covered the last, I think it was Nelson, Nelson versus Diego, and I bet you, I'd like to ask Nelson this. I bet you when he looks back at that tape against Pacheco, he would probably say he should have turned it on a little bit earlier. He probably should have said he shouldn't have given Diego so much respect earlier because as the fight was trending late, you started seeing Nelson implement a game plan, but he was already too far behind. And he, especially with his distance, like he was out of range so much early mid rounds to where I don't know how much of that was like he felt Pacheco's power early or that he just over respected Pacheco. But those last two rounds, he stood there and I felt like, if that fight would have gone a couple more rounds or if he would have started a little bit earlier, it could have gone his way. And then when I was doing my film study on and Billy and Lester, I didn't put two and two together about Lester fighting Santana. And so I was watching that fight, and that was a close fight. And I was talking to people about how they scored Lester versus Ryko. I want before I even how did you watch Santana versus Lester?
I did, yeah,
Did you
I
think that
did.
was a close fight?
Well, that's a whole nother thing. So if
Yeah.
for anyone that didn't watch that fight, like on box record, I don't think it shows it, but Lester Martinez was dropped in the eighth round, hurt badly in the eighth round, and Rico Santana almost had him out of there. So
Mhm.
that was a fight that really you'll see this with Santana. He has a lot of fights that can go either way.
Mhm.
And Lester Martinez was probably one of those fights that might have went either way. He fought a prospect recently, undefeated prospect. That was a fight that could have went either way. The Chuck Simpson fight, he edged that. That was a fight that could have. So you're seeing like there's a trend here. There's a
Yeah.
lot of 50-50 fights that could have went
Yeah.
either way. And I think that trend's going to continue with someone like Steve Nelson, right? I think it's going to be another 50-50 fight. Don't forget, Steve Nelson's up in age too now.
Yeah.
And his legs to me didn't look great against Diego Pacheco. He won a lot of that, like I said, on heart. He had a lot of flush shots from there. Like one thing impressed me with Nelson was his heart and his chin. And
Mhm.
yeah, man, I just think this is a good, really good stylistic matchup. But I could see Nelson losing this fight definitely.
Yeah, so I want to talk to you a little bit about sort of like betting techniques with a fight like this, because neither guy, and this is no shade on Nelson or Santana at this stage of the career, neither guy's going to be a world champion for the most part, fighting for world titles. They're not like they're slower, they're older, like you said. Are you a guy that if you are going to take action on this fight, are you picking a winner or loser? Or are you going to like seek out maybe a knockdown or a distance bet? What's your sort of inkling on this specific fight? Where maybe the smart money, the smart bet, where the better should probably start looking towards odds?
I think everything's situational with bets, like different situations. I'll get to that later when we talk about Jermaine Franklin. But like in this particular, like I'm looking at kind of what I discussed before, like value, right? So, like in America, we use everything's based off 100. We say plus 250. Santana's plus 250 right now. I know you got viewers from all over the world. Some
Yeah.
people use decimals or fractions, but like for me, with math, I hate math. This is the easiest thing to go by for me. Is that plus 250 just means you drop on everything's based off $100. You drop on $100 wins you $250. It's that simple. Plus 250. He's the underdog. So in a fight that I think is 50-50, like values there at 100 is going to win you $250. If he was the underdog, it would be minus 250. You would have to lay 250 to win 100. That's just what that means. But I think that's just strictly off value. Unless you have like some strong inclination that Steve Nelson is going to be looked at the price that he is, that he's a lock, or I know he's with Team Bud, so maybe he has some favoritism on the cards there. But I don't tell people what to bet, not what to bet. I'm just saying, like, for me on tape, I think it's a close fight, and I see value with Santana. I could definitely see a path to victory for Santana.
Okay. I think we see eye to eye on that. And the odds make it a play. And then just like I mean, we don't get any young like the Achilles injury. And watching Nelson's tape doesn't move his head. I mean, he's kind of like people are going to cheer for him because where he comes from, entrepreneur guy. I mean, my book. I like how you broke that down. I didn't realize it was that simple with how the American odds. So I use denominations of 100 as well. So Ryko is a $3.45 dog, meaning you put 100 on him. So you just subtract the 100 from the dollar sign. So similar to the odds you're getting, he's $2.45. So 100 on him, you get your money back plus $245. So more than 2-1 dog. I think there's great value with that. Do you see that fight going the distance or getting stopped?
It's 10 rounds. I wouldn't be shocked to see it go the distance. I really wouldn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And
I don't. I mean, look, they both have serious chins. Look at he just went. Steve Nelson just went 12 rounds with Diego Pacheco. We saw Raiko Santana just went 10 rounds recently, not that recent, but with Lester Martinez, who's a killer.
mhm,
So there's nothing that says to me, he was in a war with Chuck Simpson. He's also been very active. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but he's been with the TCL, the Combat League, Raiko
mhm,
Santana. He's
mhm.
he was just like their fighter of the year. I think he's 14-0 there. So he's been active in that sense where he's in actual fights,
Mhm.
not with the big gloves or the headgear, like he's fighting. So that to me
Yeah,
is an advantage that he's been in the gym, he's been
yeah.
fighting. So Santana shouldn't be too cold here. And while Nelson's been somewhat inactive.
All right, guys. Shout out to everybody tapping in. I want to give a shout out to the super chat. University of Texas fan here giving us the super chat. Appreciate you, Holla Hoax. And so moving forward, you talked about Franklin Ditchko. You brought that up. I think
Mm,
do people forget about James Franklin? In the heavyweight division. I mean, when people were talking about American heavyweights, all the buzz is on Josh Edwards, Young Buck, and then my
uh,
guy. I like Kiki Torres, but you kind of forget about this guy fought AJ, went the distance. These odds are right down the middle as well.
Yeah, Jermaine Franklin. So Jermaine Franklin, I had watched him before the Dillian White and AJ fights, and when they announced the Dillian White fight, people were pretty upset about it. I think the mainstream boxing media, like I have a lot of people that I talked to from the UK, they didn't know who he was. They asked me. I said, "No, he's live in this fight." A matter of fact, he was a heavy underdog, and I knew him from when he fought. I would say journeyman, not really club level fighters, but Rydell Booker he fought, and he fought
Yep.
Jerry Forrest, who are both
Yep.
good level fighters, and I gauge a fighter on their performance. So I have to see how you handle yourself against someone to that caliber of a journeyman, and that's going to dictate where I put you, where I think you can perform then at the next level, right? I think that's what a lot of people do. So going into that White fight, anyways, I said I have Jermaine Franklin for the upset. I thought he was going to beat Dillian White, and he was a crazy price. And I tell you what, I scored a 7-5 for Jermaine Franklin. I think if that wasn't at Wembley, wherever it was, and it was in the UK, if it was on neutral ground, I think it was either a draw or Jermaine Franklin would have got the fight. So
Yeah.
I
Judges gave
always
it to.
saw, yeah,
Yep.
he had good fundamentals. He has nothing great, but he's good all around, which is rare for a heavyweight, right? He's got a good jab, he's got good power, good feet. He probably has a great chin. He has a lot of good things. But even though I got burned on that, like I always look at it, the cards didn't go in my favor, but my read was right. So then the next fight against Anthony Joshua, I know eventually in the long run I'm going to get them back. So against Anthony Joshua, I thought it would go the distance, and it was paying big money to go the distance. I was like, I think Jermaine Franklin will go 12 rounds with Anthony Joshua. So at least I got it back on that. And he was somewhat competitive. I don't think it was a complete blowout. I mean, Jermaine Franklin's he's a good fighter. The problem now is he's had inactivity. He's had problems promotional with Dimitri Salita. He's had fights that have fell through because of promotional problems with this promoter who a lot of people have promotional problems with. He's
Hmm.
the new Don King, this guy. So a lot of fights fall through with him. But he finally has this big fight. Uh, and I think the odds are dead even here for Jermaine Franklin and oh, that's what I was talking about with the value though before. The value was on going the distance. So that was a play that I would have played because that was situational. I don't always like props, but with situation like that with a read, I was like, there's value there. I'm going to play that. But Ivan, I don't know if you watched any tape on Ivan.
I was watching it earlier today and last night. Ditchko. You don't see many heavyweights coming out of Uzbekistan undefeated. Um, what the tape I've seen, I feel like Franklin should be the favorite here.
Yeah,
Just
that's
I have you seen it? I couldn't really just basically the resume of what Ditchko has done. Is it because maybe explain to me a little bit? Have you watched a lot on
so.
Ditchko?
I mean, a lot of it was his amateur footage, and
Okay,
as a
okay,
pro, it doesn't have much. What stands out to me is that he's only been past the third round once.
yeah,
So it was an Argentinian fighter, and he went 10 rounds. I mean, you're going to go. I'm just off the top of my head. I think it's going to go the distance. And
okay,
second back half of the fight, I'm going to have to favor Jermaine Franklin. But
yeah.
this is what I see with a lot of these. I think where's the? I want to say Kazakhstan. I don't want to get it wrong. Maybe
He's
Uzbekistan, but I think
did
Kazakhstan,
I
right?
my bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a Kazakh. I think I said
So
Uzbek.
a lot
Yeah.
of these like Euro Asia or Asia fighters that come out, you know, former Soviet Union fighters, they have this like aurora of being like a dark horse or a boogeyman. I know Arslan Makhmedov when he came out. I know he's from Russia, but remember, nobody wanted to fight this guy, right?
Hmm.
Big, scary dude, and he was fighting similar competition to what Ivan's fighting, just like club level fighters. He stepped up against his first contender, and
Hmm.
that was Ajit Kayabal, right? And Kayabal blew this guy away. He kind of put that boogeyman to rest. And then the next scenario, I remember a fighter from Kazakhstan. I want to say his name was Kosobuski, Zan Kosobuski, and he was another boogeyman, southpaw, very good. No one wanted to fight him. All club level fighters, right? Very good amateur pedigree. I think he beat Frazier Clark, Guido Vianello, all Olympians, right? Kosobuski. And the first contender that he went up to fight against was a guy named F.A. Ajagba. And F.A. at that time had one loss. Frank Sanchez got thoroughly outboxed. But that fight against that boogeyman from Kazakhstan, F.A. Ajagba, kept hitting him with the jab down to the body. Like these guys who were good maybe in the pros, but when they step up and they have to fight, sometimes it seems like they're getting a little exposed. And now I'm seeing this with Ivan. I don't know if this is going to be the case, but the trend here is he's been fighting club level fighters, and now he's going to fight against a real contender in Jermaine Franklin. If
Mhm.
this is the Jermaine Franklin that fought Dillian White, oh, these odds are lopsided. He's going to beat Ivan
Yeah.
DeCheco. So that's what I'm seeing because Ivan throws wide.
Mhm.
He's good one too, but his footwork's down in place. He leaves his chin up, so I can see why he's big and strong for the amateurs. But this isn't the amateurs. I think in a
Mhm.
professional level fight, as long as we don't get the Jermaine Franklin that fought against Devin Fargas,
Yeah.
he looked kind of poor, but still, like everything in my on tape, what I see, and from previous experiences, I think Jermaine Franklin should be able to edge this.
That's what I was thinking as well. I don't know if it's. I mean, it's tough to get past Ditchko. What 30? He has 33 pro rounds. Franklin's 100 more than that. I think maybe because Ditchko's 35, six
He's
foot nine.
35, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 35. He's 6'9", and like you said, he throws these big looping shots. I think those odds. So
Bro, he's only been
50-50.
3 rounds. Take the 10 round out against Lola. Like he's only been really
Yeah.
he's been
So
doing
then,
3 rounders. Think about that. So
yeah, you're right. One,
Jermaine
three,
Franklin
five.
has high level experience at Wembley.
No, you're
AJ and
right,
Dillian White. Like
mate. Bro, this is the fight that I was thinking about. I haven't uploaded it, but when I was back and forth with some of the boys in our Discord, this was the fight that I was being asked money per value. Like, what's the fight right now per value? And I was like, man, I think people are sleeping on Franklin. I need to watch a little bit more Ditchko. I couldn't find a lot of tape, and have it, talking to you, asking you about it, it's kind of proving my point of it. I think the odds makers have this one wrong.
yeah, I mean, it's even he hasn't fought somebody like when Jermaine Franklin was fighting like Rydell Book or Jerry Forrest. Like those are good journeymen. He hasn't Ivan Ditchko. He hasn't really fought even to that level. So he's gonna look good against the club fighters he's fighting against. But this is
Yeah.
a much bigger step now because Jermaine Franklin is fundamentally sound, like I said in the beginning, all around. He's good all around. He's got good combinations, good hand speed. Nothing great, maybe a great chin, but he's just a good all around fighter. And he can do 12 rounds. So
Yeah, so history, let's take some of these questions. History Vault says people think Ditchko has a jab, but he really doesn't. He has a pawing jab, which sets up his hooks. He kind of prods it out there. He doesn't sit on it. I agree with you on that, but he's just trying to set up his backhand. Money Meach 50-50 heavyweight fight. Be cautious. Yeah, money. I mean, on the line, I think the point is we're not really telling people to go heavy on this fight. We're saying on the line, the odds have it at 50-50. I think it should be swaying, and I think TJ thinks it should be swaying more in favor of Franklin. And then, what do you think about Ditchko's jab, TJ?
like I
Because
said, like the footage I've seen, he looks good against club level fighters and amateurs. I want to say I watched his fight with maybe he fought Fa Ajagba, but Fa though from the amateurs till now
different guy,
completely improved. Fa from Frank
different guy.
Sanchez to the Fa now, two completely different fighters. He's gotten way
Yeah,
better.
different guy. Martha Prince in the house, represent Northeast Ohio. The Buckeyes, we up. He leaves us a super chat. This is an interesting question, TJ, because you and I haven't spoken about it. I brought this up on my live stream 2 days ago. Takai versus Medina. Mate, the books
I
right
think
now have
Medina's
Medina.
live. Medina's live in this.
Real. All right. So, Mar, I was talking about this the other day, and you hear what TJ says. I think these odds are insane as well. They got right now, as we speak here in Australia, you got Medina at, give me a second,
He's like
Takai,
a 8-1
4-1.
favorite. Yeah.
He's a 4-1 dog. So, what's your thoughts on Takai versus Medina?
Yeah, I mean, no, Medina could fight.
Yeah,
I've
that's
watched
right.
tape on him. He can fight. He's live, especially it's in Japan, right? You know how
Yep.
that goes.
Yep.
Yeah, Japan's also fair scoring.
Fair
They
scoring.
foreigners tend to do really well in Japan when they travel. So
That's true. I
yeah,
don't. Are you? I don't know yet if I'm gonna even bet
I
on
haven't
that
played
fight,
it. Like
Mar.
I'm just trying to get past. I'm just trying to get past this week.
We're in a
But
tournament. Yeah, this is
yeah,
how I mentally. I look at it as like a win and move on sort of tournament. That Japan card with Inoue and MJ. That's the next day.
yeah.
But dude, there's even without even side chatting here. There's that kid from the other Bektamir.
Yes.
Bektamir. Nurmagomedov is
Yeah, he's
fighting
fighting too. Yeah,
Thursday night. He's, I
yeah.
think, ranked 17. He's in the top 20, 25 in his division.
I
So
think
that's a
those
fun.
he's part of the ring card. I think the ring has some fights during the week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think they're
Anthony Asalagua is fighting. Very good
Princess.
fight.
One of the
Yeah,
best one of the best nicknames, Princess Alascuaga. Um, so we got Santana and Nelson. How about all right? I mean, this is the how about Serhi versus Adams too?
man. So I know we spoke about the Michael Fox fight,
Mm-hmm.
I think previously, and
Mm-hmm.
that's obviously a bad showing. That's another example where Serhii Boachuk, he blew weight for
Mm-hmm.
that. His team asked for a catch weight, and then he blew the catch weight. So he came in, I think, at least 5 pounds over, and it was probably his worst performance to date.
Mm-hmm.
He looked poor. He had no head movement, and I know Michael Fox is tricky. Look, he went down as one of the biggest robberies ever against Gabriel Maestre, right? So he's a good fighter. He's way better than his record suggests. But someone like Boachuk, who's just been blowing everybody out. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
look at Ishmael Davis. He was coming off that great win, and then with Virgil Ortiz, some people thought he beat Virgil.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to struggle and then get dropped in the last round against Michael Fox, I mean that's just a poor showing. If that version shows
Get
up,
dropped. Hold up. He didn't get dropped.
he got dropped by Michael Fox. Look, they didn't call. It was clearly.
Okay,
No,
I
he
gotta
got
give.
dropped in the look. There was 10 seconds left in the fight. He got dropped.
They didn't call. He didn't get. There
It
wasn't a
was a
count. What
clear.
they called it a
They
foot.
did. He was a minus 2,400 favorite, and that was a fight where I had him in. I thought he would blow out Michael Fox, and as soon as he blew weight, I pulled it, and that was a sweat because
Yeah,
when the scorecards were going to get read, there was people that had Michael Fox up in that fight. But if you go back and watch it, it was clearly like not a slip. He got dropped. I think it was
I'd
a
have to
straight left
rewatch
hand.
it.
Yeah, it was the
Yeah.
last 10 seconds of the 10th round. So anyone that
Okay.
wants to pull it up real quick and dispute it, let me know. But I mean, yeah, he looked poor. He looked poor. So he needs to be the version that fought probably Virgil Ortiz, even Ishmael Davis. I thought the first 2 rounds before he got hurt, he was putting, he was outboxing Boachuk. And Brandon Adams looks like he's in the best shape. He's always in shape. Brandon Adams is such a fun fighter. Like
Yeah.
I love everything about Brandon Adams. He's a
Yep.
guy that you want to win, and he's been
Yep.
fighting nothing but tough competition.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'm kind of torn on that. I just did the tape. I've been, I just uploaded my breakdown. You have to go to 2015 when Apollo Thompson stopped Brandon Adams, and then that's the only time he got stopped. Brandon Adams, then, I think it was 2019, fought Charlo. I mean, he spends a couple years being inactive, been more active as of late. He fights that close fight against Katsarakis. And then, Boachek's camp claims that knockout was a wet canvas. There was quote unquote sort of drama controversy with the first matchup. Look, we have to remember Serhi was supposed to fight Madrimov, right? So like you come off of a war that went viral against Virgil, which I don't know if I can name another example of a fight when one guy in such a close fight on the cards, one guy gets dropped multiple times and doesn't drop his opponent to get the 10-8 back or however you're scoring the round multiple times in multiple rounds and loses the decision. And that's what happened with Sari. Am I saying that he was robbed? I'm not saying that. I think a lot of that had to do with Virgil just getting kind of buzzed, stunned, popping back up, and then doing what Virgil does and putting it on him. And so he then, was supposed to fight Majimov and then fights Michael Fox, a 147 guy on Hollywood Fights that we had to, watch on Fight Pass. That's tough to get up for. You know what I'm saying? It's tough to get up for. So initially I was like, is Serhi slowing down? Is that version of him against Michael who he is now? He's only 30. It's easy to forget he's only 30. He's only 30. Brandon's 35, 36. Brandon's 5'8". Serhi's 6 feet tall. I got Boachek, man. I was leaning on Brandon. The odds are tasty. The odds are juicy. I think they're there to tempt us. I see Boachek, one of those guys who fights the best when the lights are bright. I think we're gonna see a version of Boachek that you mix Manny Robles in the equation as coach. I like what he brings to the table. So yeah, I initially all week was going with Brandon, but then last second I'm going with Boachek.
Yeah. I mean, I get 100%. I don't think we're gonna get the version that fought Michael Fox. So, I
Yeah.
think he's gonna
Okay.
be. Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
get that
So
out the way then. So does the version who fought Virgil beat Brandon?
look. So for Brandon, I would just go back and watch his fights after the Bochuk fight because there was some absence. Right. He was out of the ring, but
Yep.
then he came back against Ishmael Villarreal, who fought Callum Moss. We'll
Oh,
talk about that later. And I
yeah,
think he
dude.
stopped him in the third round. Ishmael
Only guy.
Villarreal, very,
Or
very
the
good
first
fighter.
guy. He was the first guy to stop Villarreal.
Then he fought, is it Francisco Veron, who just
Yep.
beat
Veron.
Vladimir 24K.
Yep.
Very, very good fighter. Like these are very, very good fighters. And then he had a fight with Katz, which probably could have went
That's
either way.
could
Another
have gone either
very,
way.
very good fighter. I mean, these are all top level contenders. Brendan Adams is showing out. I
Yeah.
think he's probably in the best form that he's ever been right now. That run,
Okay.
that run of those three names makes him live
Okay.
right there. I think his
Okay.
confidence is sky high. I think he's gonna put on his
Shit.
best performance, but if
Yeah.
I'm expecting the best of both of these guys. Can he change back the rounds that he was losing? Because I feel like he gets pushed back too easily by Bochuk. You
He
can't
stays
have your
on the
back on the
ropes.
ropes. You're back on
Yeah.
the ropes like you did Cats. Listen, you're gonna lose the fight. You can't
Yep.
depend on that. Hey, I'm gonna land that same hook again. So in
Yep.
that sense, listen, I see why Bochuk's the favorite. Do I think he should be as big as a favorite? Probably not. No, because I think
Yeah.
Brandon Adams is the running he's been on in the form. I mean, his confidence has to be sky high right now. I've been seeing his training video. Like he's feeling himself. He feels like,
No. No.
and he already
Yep.
knows he won. He beat him the
Yep.
first time. He probably. So would I be shocked at all? I don't think any of us would be shocked if Brandon Adams pulled it off.
Yeah, you brought up some good points. The things he can't do is like you said, stay and hang out on those ropes. I mean, Boacek, the high guard, he's already tall for the division, but he kind of makes himself look even taller. How he fights, he prods. Once he starts seeing you backing up, man, it's really an uphill battle trying to get on his, get him backing up. So you bring up a good point. The 2024 fights, he fought 3 times in 2024, all against high level opponents. It's a close one. Yeah, should he be 4-1? By no means should he be 4-1. Man, this whole card's going to be a lot of
I
these
like
sort
to
of
fight. Yeah, like all these. It's good when you have fights and you can make cases for both fighters because I'm telling
exactly,
you, it's rare. It's rare
and
on
that's
most
what we want.
cards.
100%, and that's what we want. And as fight fans, true boxing fans, people who aren't casuals, people we want to see the best fight the best, right? And it's like Brandon's one of those guys. He's been staying around the top 20 in the world at 154 for almost a decade. You know what I'm saying? It's been he people. He came out the cannon. He came out on fire, and then I mean he fought. Yeah, he fought Charlo in 2019. Lost every round, but it's an
Charlo's a
interesting
beast.
one.
Charlo,
Yeah,
I mean, Charlo
29
was before.
exactly.
Yeah,
2019 Charlo's a goddamn different animal. 100%. Are
no
you
shame in that.
so you're gonna damn, 4 plus. It is tough. The money right now, I got Adams 100 on him just to win. You get your money back plus 380. So the odds are kind of tempting us there. And then, you know, we got Lester and Billy. We got to talk about that one. I mean, we've mentioned Lester and Billy. I hear some people saying it's a 12 rounder. BoxRec has it at 10. I asked the Discord. I'm pretty sure it's a 10 rounder, right?
I think it's 10, so it's for the interim belt, and
WBC, right?
yeah, but they've been doing 10 rounders, so
Okay,
which is weird because it should be for
a
12
12
round
rounds.
fight, but
That's right.
I'm hearing now it's 10. So if it's 10, does it change this thing? For me, I know Billy's got a hell of a gas tank, so I would have favored the 12 rounds for somebody like Billy.
Hmm.
But these are both guys that are hittable, capable of hurting each other. Look, Carlos Gongora, we know. If you don't know, you know now. He
Yeah,
had Billy hurt. I
twice
think it was yeah,
in
it
the
was in
second and the eighth.
in the eighth round, right?
Yeah.
And if you didn't know, I'm telling you now, Lester Martinez was dropped and he was hurt badly against Rico Santana. And
Yep.
that was, I want to say that was also in the eighth round, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that fight's out there. You could watch that fight.
It's
So
on
10.
UFC Fight. I found it yesterday. You have to get to UFC Fight Pass. They
Hmm.
have Ryko versus Lester on Fight Pass, and in typical Dana White fashion, he scraped it from all of YouTube. So you have to pay for that membership.
So Yeah, but that's like two birds with one stone. So both of those guys are fighting on the card. So you watch that. There you
Yep.
go. Yeah, but I mean, it tells me that they're both vulnerable, right? And you got
Hmm.
two guys with heavy hands. So
Hmm.
you can see why this is pretty much a 50-50. On the books have a 50-50. For me, anything minus 200, 2-1 or under in boxing, that's a 50-50 fight.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's what this is. Like, if you're gonna ask me who I favor, I think the work, and Billy's a good round winner. So I think
Hmm.
that work rate. So
Hmm.
in rounds where Martinez isn't hurting on Billy, I think Billy's going to be winning the rounds.
Hmm.
If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I think activity is going to come to play. What, like, people could kind of fall in love with the optic of him, Billy, what he looks like, but it's that relentless pace, his volume, his output. I was going back and forth on in the Discord based on what Paulie said. Paulie was on the boxing scene. I think it might have been last week, and Malinaji was talking about how he doesn't think highly of him, Billy.
Yeah.
And,
He called
and
him one dimensional. Yeah,
he
but you know what
contra
the problem is? When you got that one dimension, whether it's Pitbull or that one dimension works 95% of the time. Do you know how
I
hard
will.
it is to keep a fighter? And don't forget, he's a little biased when someone
I
like
know.
him, or I want to say Sonny Edwards is on, and I watch Sonny Edwards. They always favor, because Sonny Edwards' style was not to engage. He liked to stick and move, hit and not miss. So they tend to favor the person that has the little better feet. Or Sergio
Yeah.
Mora does that a lot
Well,
too.
that's how
Sergio,
Paulie fought. That's how Paulie
yeah.
fought.
So,
Yeah.
whether it's subconscious, or they want to make
Yeah.
it seem a little better that way. So listen, that's a fucking hard style to have somebody on your chest, and they're not going anywhere, and you have to fight them
100%.
off. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you have to be something almost special to be able to move that person, hurt that person, or be able to outbox that person. Because, like I
Because
said, 95% of the time, like that style, like, let's just call it generic Mexican style. Like, they're coming, great chin, power in your chest.
that
Fuck
marauding
yeah.
style.
How many
Yeah.
times do we see that fade the boxer? We just saw it with Jordan White. Jordan
Yeah.
White was more skilled than Renee. Come on. He's going
Dude.
back in straight lines. Renee, but sometimes that one style, that one dimension, you're gonna just keep winning and riding that roller coaster.
Yeah, without talking about Renee. Renee looked like a kid who was stealing people's lunch money against dude, that was a horrible out. Anyway, but calling, talking like historically, boxing history, usually if a guy's one dimensional in a good way, he's a Hall of Famer. Being one dimensional, he was using it, in my opinion, trying to like take a nod trying to take a slap at Canelo. We know that Paulie does it, by talking trash about him, Billy, because Billy was in the sweepstakes to fight Canelo, but Bud's fighting Canelo. You know what I'm saying? So do you think that Bud is just trash, like you said, and Billy's trash because Canelo only fights guys who? That was Paulie's argument, but a guy like Billy who could crack, who has pressure, comes forward, and watch the Gongora fight, especially in the 8th round. This is what I was talking about. People are like, "Oh, he can't box, he can't punch going backwards." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" The only reason he didn't get stopped against Gongora in the 8th, a really weird southpaw who throws his punches long, awkward guy, is because he was landing when he was hurt, going backwards. That awkward jab, but also his right hand. So that's all the evidence you kind of need to see when a hammer is becoming the nail, because not always hammers can be the nail and win. And Billy has shown that he could do that. He
Yeah,
could punch him. He could punch himself out of trouble backing up.
I
And
think they're selling him short by calling him one dimensional. I don't.
same.
Yeah.
How do you if he was just a puncher, maybe, but he's not just a puncher. The dude has a chin. He's durable. His gas tank. His uppercut. He throws his uppercut at sneaky different angles in the pocket. I think that Lester's hard not to cheer for too. I was This is another fight that up until 3 days ago I was picking Lester based off of just how he fights. He's hard. He's one of these guys, fan friendly style, on his front foot. But when you start really like we could dissect it however we could overthink it. I think it's going to come down to who does better work in the clinch, in the pocket. And I don't know if Lester really. We'll see if he could take those body shots. We'll see if he could take those uppercuts. I like how Billy changes the angles of his uppercuts. You saw the one he threw against Sulecki that you predicted, by the way, and also the one that he usually throws that's sort of at range. He'll do that one, and then he'll kind of do that one. And being the
And
shorter
Billy has
fighter, I
great
think,
body work. He has a
yeah,
great punch selection. Yeah, that's why I'm not with the whole like that's really selling the fighter short. But for me, I just don't think he likes that fighting style. The commentator that you're talking about. But
yeah,
for me, I mean, yeah, I would say maybe Martinez hits harder. I could see that. Martinez really sits down on his punches, but you know, is he going to win? Is he going to win 6 rounds against somebody that's on your chest, like just with the work rate? And historically, I know judges can be lazy and they like the guy marching forward, throwing a ton of punches. So
uh-huh,
when they can't split around, they usually give the round to the guy that looks like he's in control or the ring
yep,
general. So I mean, yeah, I'm edging Billy because I think that he could hurt him and he can win on points. Where I think Martinez might have to drop him or hurt him to win, which is obviously very very possible here. They're both
yeah,
vulnerable, but
for
this is
sure.
why the fight's so close.
It's an exciting fight, mate. Are you just kind of a random question. Is this one of those fight cards that you're going to be a little bit hesitant? Don't give me a number, but like, is this one of those fight cards that there's hesitation for like going really, really heavy on an outcome because there's so many 50-50 fights? Or historically, is it these fights that you can make the most money hypothetically, these 50-50s?
Nah, I don't like a lot of fights on. I don't like a lot of fights on. I'd rather have one card. I don't want, because this card is really like having 2 or 3 cards on it with
I
with
know. Five
like a
different main
lot of them
events.
could be main events themselves. Like Callum Walsh could be a main event. Lester Martinez, these guys could be main events. Sirhai Bo, Chuck Brennan Adams, like that in itself
Come
could be a
on.
main event. Yeah, but no. And then there's other fights on that. Patty Donovan's fighting too. Like I don't like it when there's too many fights. Personally,
There's
if
so,
you're gonna, yeah, because it takes away from the focus of like if you only had like 3 or 4 good fights on that. Hey, I could possibly do something here. Now I'm looking around like, oh, I got opinions and takes on all these. Let me see where value is. But I don't go too crazy unless I really think I have confidence in on an opinion on like these odds are all so close. Like I'm telling you, I could see the fights going either way. So why would I go crazy on something like that and stress myself out?
one of the boys brought up, shout out to Bricks. This is a fight that I brought up earlier in the week, Alice Coaga versus Camacho. I think those odds are a bit insane. Alice Coaga is he's a huge favorite here. Camacho's a 5-1 underdog. I mean, have you watched the tape on these guys? Do you know much about
Yeah,
Camacho?
yeah. He fought,
Do you think
I
those?
believe, a Filipino fighter recently, right? Jason Mama, I want to say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Do
yeah.
do
And
you
I
think
know
those odds are
Alcalagua.
fair?
I thought he only had a few fights when he fought against, I want to say it's Haraji
Yeah,
Kenshiro. And I
yeah.
thought he was actually might be able to upset him. No, he does a lot of training. He trains out in Japan a lot. He's a very good fighter. I mean, he
I
could
have a
look those
friend of
odds.
mine. A friend of
Yeah,
mine talks to me about Oscawaga. Like he speaks. How my buddy who's in the states, who's connected with RGBA, he's when I talk to him about Oscawaga, he talks about Oscawaga like I talk
super
about
skilled.
Pinto.
Yeah,
Yeah,
super skilled. Super skilled.
yeah.
I'm high on him. I'm high on him. So
Okay,
I'm not surprised that the odds are this.
okay,
I'm not
okay.
surprised.
So do you think do you think upset alert or no?
With the lower weight classes, bro, anything's possible. It's like the lower weight classes and heavyweight.
Yeah,
I feel like it doesn't take too much
yeah.
for upset, but nah, man, I'm pretty confident in Anthony.
Okay, how about the Callum Walsh versus Vargas?
Callum Walsh versus Vargas. Yeah, so Callum Walsh, I was at the fight with Villarreal. I was about 10 feet away from the ring.
Okay,
And I had bet Walsh when he fought Ishmael Villarreal. And I was there with my father. And at the scorecards, I didn't know who won. I told my dad I bet Walsh. I said, I don't know who won. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave it to Villarreal. Walsh was dropped in the 10th,
hmm
counted, and he was dropped at least once, maybe 2 other times that the ref picked him
didn't
up
call it.
and
Yep,
didn't call it, man. It
it
was
was
a
so
bad
weird.
look. It was a
He,
bad look for Callum. Callum
yeah.
looked exhausted. But let me say something about Villarreal. Super, super skilled. Very underrated fighter. Very
People sleep
skilled.
on him. Yeah, people
But
sleep
yeah,
on him.
he was a good fighter. I think that was a good learning experience for Callum, whether he won or didn't win. It doesn't matter. I think we're gonna get a better version. Than I think that was just. I think he needed a fight like that. But
Yeah,
I
there's
will say
people.
this: I think Villarreal is better than Fernando Vargas. So I'll put that there. Fernando Vargas hasn't fought somebody like Villa. Villa's good. Villa's good. I rate
Yeah.
him.
Do you think that I'm hearing this there's this narrative being thrown around that if it's a close fight because of the Dana White and KO TKO propping up Walsh, that's going to play a decision. And I was pushing back on that. I was like, Fernando Vargas Jr. is like boxing royalty in
Mhm.
America. I mean, look, just based off of the last name, um, Callum Walsh is still, he's not from, he's from Ireland. So the idea that I understand why people think that in a close fight it would go towards Callum, but I don't think that's, necessarily correct. I think Callum Walsh just might be the better fighter.
I think Johnny. I think you can make it like arguments for both, right? So with Vargas, it's going to be a very pro Mexican American crowd there, right? It's a Canelo card. Vargas is boxing royalty. You don't think
Yeah,
that the crowd there is going to be rooting for? Of course they
that
are.
was my
You
point.
don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't think that's going to play in a part? Like in Vargas, this is his big stage. He knows he's the underdog. He was picked to lose against Callum. He's the clear B side here. Like there's no mistake here. A lot of these fights don't really have A or B sides, but Dana White, this is his guy for Callum Walsh. He's trying to make him a serious contender at 154. So in that sense, I think the judges are going to know that he is the A side, Callum Walsh, if the rounds are
yeah,
close. So if I mean, yeah, I can't make it more clear. Callum Walsh is the A side here. So
yeah,
I do think there would probably be favoritism, like there historically has always been for the A side. It worked against Ismael Villarreal. I just told you I didn't know who was going to win. They didn't score at least a knockdown, which would have been the fight. It would have swung that fight if they called it. But tape for tape, style for style, Callum Walsh is better. He's better.
yeah.
He's sharper.
Yep,
I think he's more technically sound. Vargas is very raw.
yep.
He's he drops his hands a lot. He's a fighter though. He's gonna come to fight. That's the thing. That's what's gonna
That's the
make
X
this.
factor. That that
Yeah,
that's
they're
that's
gonna
what makes
fight.
him fun too. People talk shit about Fernando. Emiliano's the better one. Yeah, we get all that. But Fernando, he's a dog, dude. If you like dogs, like that dude, he's gonna swing and swinging and banging like
Yeah, he's
the
coming to
Black V
scrap, bro. He's
said.
going out on a shield. I know they feel
Yeah.
disrespected because they were picked here as a springboard because he has the
Yep.
Vargas Jr. name. Callum Walsh will get that, and then he'll go into contendership and maybe want to fight Xander Zayas or somebody else. I know they're going to be calling out big names afterwards. So
Yeah.
I know they feel a certain type of way. I've watched the interviews, but tape tape wise, I have to favor. I think Callum does, and I know the matchmaking over at TKO. They see the same thing. They're not making this fight for Callum for him to lose, right?
Yep.
They picked Vargas Jr.
Using the name. Yeah, using
They
that
picked
name.
Vargas Jr. Yeah, not because they think he could beat Callum Walsh. If that makes sense, where I'm going with this. Let's not
No.
forget, at the end of the day, boxing is a business. They have a lot of money invested in Walsh,
Yeah.
so I think it makes sense where he's at in his career, right? Vargas Jr. is undefeated, but I think he's
Yep.
very beatable. He's
Yeah.
very hittable, and when the punches are flying, I think Walsh's punches are going to get there first.
Yeah. Technically, he's more sound, more seasoned. All right, we got me and you've
Oh,
spoken
one
about
other
this.
thing,
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever been. If you want to look this up real quick, I don't know if you have a computer. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Right here.
Fernando Vargas, what's the most he's ever been rounds wise? Has
Let's
he been
check it
8 rounds? This is a 10 round fight. Has he been past 6?
out. Let's go. Give me a
This just
second.
popped in my head right now. Callum Walsh has good experience going rounds.
Yeah. Fernando Vargas Jr. El Feroz. El Feroz. Let's see his longest fight. 17-0. Of course, right when I turn to use my laptop, shit freezes
I
up.
got some right here, Johnny.
Go figure. Go figure, mate. I need a Jamie. I need a young Jamie out here. 17-0. Okay, here we go. You're right. So he went round 4. So last fight, round 4. He went to the decision against Gonzalez. Round 1, round 4, round 2. What was that decision? How far was that fight against Gonzalez? Yeah, he's not used to fighting past 8 rounds.
Has he ever even been 8 rounds? Like this is what.
Try to pull that up.
Fernando Vargas. Here we go. Don't worry, Johnny. You're out. I got this. 6 rounds. He went 6 rounds once. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, against Eduardo
2023.
Flores. Eduardo
Other than
Flores.
that, he's been doing 3 rounds, 4 rounds. He's been
He's like
5-1. Yeah, like dude, that's a massive. So that's a massive experience advantage when
for
you've
sure.
only been to the 6th round once. Where you got Callum, who's been in 10 rounds. Like he's been training for 10 rounders.
He's been training
That
for 10 rounders his whole career. Yeah,
yeah.
he had a
So
couple. He had a couple fours, couple. I mean, in his 1, 2, 3, in his sixth fight, he's fighting a 10 rounder, and he's fought 10 rounds ever since.
I could see his team telling him be sharp early. Drag this kid down, drown him later. I mean, if I was in Walsh's corner, that's what I would be saying. Because
Yeah,
Vargas has never fought somebody as technically skilled, as experienced as Walsh. So there's so many things in Walsh's favor. Like just talking to you about this now, it's like getting me more confident in Walsh.
yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
put too much thought. Yeah, but you know where I'm going
Fleshing
with
it
this.
out.
Yeah, like the 6th round, he's only been 6 rounds. He's in the 10 round
Yeah,
fight, and against
yeah,
and once he's not
yeah.
like he's been 6 rounds like 5 times once. So
Yeah.
that's a huge factor.
It definitely matters, and I think, and I'm on the side. I mean, you grew up around boxing your entire life. I heard you say you used to, you boxed back in the day as well. So I'm on the side of when I see a guy coming up who actually overcomes getting dropped, overcomes getting hurt, like you said, Walsh versus um,
Villa.
Villarreal.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
at that fight. That's a good thing. Like for me, if I'm in the young guy's camp, because now we know how he sort of reacts when that adversity
And he
presents
got
itself.
dropped. He got dropped and
Yeah,
counted. You want to know
yeah,
how he's going to look to his corner? Is he going to be fearful? Like
exactly.
there's so many signs that you're going to see. How does a fighter handle, being in trouble, especially it's the 10th round, you're in a close fight. If you get dropped again, it might be over. You could get hurt. Are you
Yeah,
surviving? Are you going to be defensively sound? There's so many things you got to read into that. And now we know that about him. And if he gets dropped again, he'd be like, I've been here before. It's
yeah,
okay. Right.
yeah.
So
Yeah. I think he's gonna be one of my locks, 100%. I was flirting with the idea. I know you don't like the word locks, but the Discord asks, Johnny, what one fight do you think that I'm of all the
everyone wants a
fights on
lock.
that card?
Yeah, everyone,
There's no
yeah.
such thing as a lock. Anything can happen in boxing. That's the beautiful part about the sport. All right, everybody's asking you, and we've spoken about this 3 weeks ago. We talked about the weight. We talked about Bud and Canelo. I mean, from my perspective, Crawford is a welterweight. I know people are going to say he had one fight against Madrimov. That he's not a junior middleweight. He's a welterweight going up to 168. I don't like it. What do you see happening?
I don't know. There's a lot of question marks. I mean, if he stayed at 154, would he beat Boots? Would
Virgil?
he beat Virgil? If he
Would
went
he
to
beat Boots?
160, would he beat Janabek? I mean, these are all questions. But
Oh
why would you
God.
take those fights if you could fight Canelo, make more money fighting Canelo than you would those 3 fighters combined? So I
Business.
completely understand. Oh, it's business. It's a legacy fight. You also know you're
100.
not supposed to win. So even if you don't win, it's okay, right? There's no pressure, I feel like, on Bud. And you're
Yeah.
gonna get a
Un-
massive
un-
amount of
Unless he gets,
retirement money.
I mean, nobody wants to go. He does, Bud. He doesn't want to get embarrassed. Um, yeah, it's really hard for me to see a path to victory against Canelo for Bud. I mean, I was talking about it on my first live streams. Another thing people aren't going to, nobody, Crawford fans, like diehard Crawford fans, aren't going to talk about, the Mean Machine, scenario. They're not going to talk about Gamboa. They're not going to talk about, um, you know, I think Bud's best years were actually either at 40 or 47. We spoke about this before. My favorite fight of Crawford was at 35 against Burns. I mean, he's fighting Canelo at 68. Canelo's lead hook, where I was getting at, is when you want if you really dissect technically how he throws that lead hook, most guys who are going to favor their lead hook at the world level are going to have a tell. They're either going to, I was taught to turn the hip, and my coach used to say, this is in the late 80s, early 90s, kill the bug, put the cigarette out, boom. Canelo keeps both shoulders. He doesn't even turn his lead foot, and his hook just snaps. And man, we're gonna see if Bud can take that hook. You know, I'm not. How do we have evidence that he could take that power?
We don't. We don't. I mean, people are just assuming. You get a lot of people that, unfortunately, that's why it's tough talking these fights, because especially with the Canelo fan base, and now Bud fans came out of nowhere ever since the Spence, because it was always
It was
diehard
always
Spence fans,
EJ. It, yep,
PBC fighters, Spence fight,
lines
right?
only.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You get a lot of people, unfortunately, that are just fans of boxers and not boxing, right? They could tell you, they'll go for, oh, Loma this, Loma that, Tank this, Tank that, but in the divisions they don't even know who the other champions are. But they'll
exactly.
they'll they'll, they'll ride for whoever it is, and that's the same for Canelo. Canelo can do no wrong, and now Bud, right? Everyone's on the Bud wagon, but you know, I mean, it's tough. I'm telling you right now, I've been hearing more and more people lean Bud, so this is just putting it out there. More and more people are leaning Bud. More and more people are betting Bud. That came out
Mhm.
today. There's been more tickets for Bud so far, betting slips for Bud,
Really?
than for Canelo. You, I think it's under the theory that, well, Canelo's regressed. I don't think he's the same fighter that he was at, obviously, 154, 160. But that's there's so many question marks. How is Bud gonna look at 168 against Canelo?
Say that again. That is insane to say. Say that again, because this is what I was talking about. I want to give a shout out to Brandon, who's in the Discord. Brandon says, I've been blowing up yours and Gary's Discord. Brandon, I read your take on this on Bud and Canelo, and I agree with you on these points. And Mar, thanks for the super chat. I'll get to that in a second. Pre Canelo Mel versus Bud at 54. But Chilltown, TJ, say that again. But people are saying Canelo's, he's not the same guy. Of course he's not, mate. The dude turned pro when he was a teenager,
Yeah.
2007,
Well,
2008.
no, okay. Whenever you think he was prime Canelo, right? Whether you think that's the Triple G fights, maybe
Yep,
what was his best weight class? Maybe 154 to maybe 160. Look,
yep.
I've had people tell me, oh, he was a welterweight fighter, bro. The last time Canelo made welterweight was 19 years old.
Yeah,
After 19, he couldn't make it anymore, and then he didn't really even stay at 154 that long. Only early 20s. He grew out of that weight class. And I know when I was on your live last time, and I'm going to take this back because I said he wasn't a real super middleweight. He's the super middleweight. Let me get that right. Canelo's his last 10 fights have been at super middleweight.
he's an
Look,
undersized. He's an undersized super
not
middleweight.
all fighters, yeah, and it bothered me because I always correct people when like not all fighters are the same. Everyone told me, "Oh, Loma's not really a lightweight. That's why he's." Listen, Loma spent half his career at lightweight. Loma's a
Yeah,
lightweight. Some fighters are big for the divisions. Some fighters are full. Some fighters like Regis Prograis, he's too small for welterweight, but he's too big for 135. He's a perfect 140 pound. Some people are just that size. Like that's what it
yeah,
is. So you're gonna have big fighters, small fighters. But listen, at the end of the day, Canelo is a certified super middleweight, and that's it. So
yeah.
you want to say he's small for it? I get that, but he's a super middleweight.
I mean, what did he weigh? You said what did he weigh in when he fought Floyd? Didn't he weigh like 152?
Canelo?
Yeah,
I thought it was maybe 155. I want to say it was maybe it was 152. I'm curious now what Mayweather weighed in
but
at, but he
but
was
you said
also
what?
look 23, and let's make no mistake about this. Mayweather has nothing in common with Bud. Like Mayweather
Nothing.
is a defensive genius. He shoulder rolls everything. He's his
His
his game in the pocket,
his
to
operating
make you
system.
miss and
That
make you
operate.
pay.
Yeah,
Yeah, Bud is an offensive counterpunch. Like they couldn't be stylistically two different things. And Mayweather didn't fight the super middleweight Canelo. Like so, I don't even.
yeah,
People want to bring that up, but for me, I'm telling you, like I wouldn't compare that. And I know people say, "Oh, but he was only 23." I don't know if that's just. I don't know. For me, I'm telling you, he was only 23, and Mayweather is not Bud. So I don't.
yeah.
To me, that's not relevant.
The, the thing that you said that's most interesting here, you got to talk about the money. It's not like the boxing world had been begging for Canelo to fight Bud. People have forgotten that the boxing world was begging David Benavidez and Canelo to fight. People forget that Bud was shelved for all these years. He was fighting top ranked He wasn't the guy. People forget that this guy, no one, he has such a big chip on his shoulder because he was being overlooked for so long. He had to go to the UK to get these fights or fight in Omaha. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the thing. And
Well,
then his,
The Madrimov win really springboarded him here.
well, the EJ,
The
him and
EJ,
EJ,
yeah,
yeah,
and then
they
that he was able to win the
do what
belt
he
off
wanted.
Madrimov. Yeah, I mean that was like the narrative then was set. Oh, if you
Yeah,
can go up to 154, which for no, imagine that, no tune-ups, right? Goes at the
yeah,
top dog at 154, Madrimov, who was kind of like a
yeah,
boogeyman. It's like they thought that was somewhat impossible. Madrimov fought in the amateurs at like super middleweight.
yeah.
He's a big, strong dude.
Big dude.
So yeah, I mean, and he won. So now that he beat a 154 pounder, there's no big names at 160. The money is Canelo. They're like, hey, Canelo not big at super middle. They're like, what if? And obviously now Netflix, they think this is going to bring in huge money. It's one of the biggest fights, and I
What?
can't remember how long. So
No, it's one of, like I said, it's one of those fights that's breaking through to the mainstream, right? We don't get, guys, fight fans, we don't get this a lot. A couple times, maybe in the I mean, what was the last one? Like a
ever.
true blue, real
Oh,
boxing match that broke through to the mainstream. Maybe when Floyd was fighting, Floyd
look,
Pacquiao.
when Netflix did Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, the numbers were insane.
I don't
And
consider that box. We don't
No, no,
consider
no.
that
But I'm
boxing.
saying because it was on Netflix. So this
Yeah,
is now on Netflix, not pay per view. Like the
yeah,
intrigue is going to be, it's going to be available to so many people. So
one hundred
I'm just
percent.
saying those numbers were insane. Now you have even a better fight. More people are going to talk about it. It's on Netflix. I think it's good. That's good for the sport.
Yeah, so you're talking. You mentioned also something when, like, people say, "What's Canelo at his peak? What did he look like when he was at his best?" Maybe the Triple G era, the trilogy there. Guys, Bud Crawford turns 38 in November. The Bud Crawford versus Madrimov at 54 versus the Bud versus EJ at 47. If you're not a diehard Crawford fan, like, unless you're a family member and you're not going to admit that, I mean, he wasn't as fast at 54. He was fastest in my opinion at 40. And even at 47, he fought EJ like a bully. It's not like he was, he bullied the bully. That was his game plan. It was a beautiful game plan. And so is that what he's going to do against Canelo? Like, what are we expecting here?
I don't even know if he's going to be. This may be controversial, but I don't know if he's going to have faster hands than Canelo. I think Canelo has.
That lead hook by Canelo, boys, is the one you want to watch for because Bud
Look,
doesn't have the best head movement. He's been known to get hit. He's been known to take a shot. He doesn't. He moves his head, but he's been known to look at his work. Oh, he's a boxer. Some guys, you could get caught looking at your work. You look at your work a little too long against Canelo right there in the strike zone. That hook's coming out of nowhere.
if you go back and watch the last few fights that Canelo had, the punch that dropped Charlo, it was a straight right hand to the guard. Charlo didn't see it coming. It was laser fast. He dropped Munguia and he dropped Berlanga.
Berlanga
Yeah,
with the
one
hook.
was the uppercut and one was the hook. These are all different punches. Three different
Yeah,
punches, all lightning fast. He's got hand speed. I'm telling you, Canelo has hand speed. It's just that he doesn't throw combinations. Bud throws combinations, and he has fast feet. So when you're throwing more than one punch, they look a lot faster. But for me, I think he's not going to be any faster at 168, Bud. So at least his hand speed. I don't think that's going to happen. You're carrying extra.
yeah.
I just don't think that's going to happen. So I think the hand speed advantage, if there is advantage, if there is, I don't think it's going to be much. I think Canelo's got fast hands. I really do.
And I think it's hard for people to compartmentalize emotions with facts and history when it comes to the sport of boxing, especially fan bases. Canelo, like, the speed, the power, the presence he's bringing into the ring. Both camps are traditionally mum and hush with releasing anything. I've had guys hit me up, Johnny, any insider info? Have you messaged so and so? You're not getting much from Bomac. You're not going to get shit from Reynoso in terms of, like, you know, I'd like to know if Boots sparred Canelo the entire time as an orthodox fighter. I wonder because
Uh,
what do you think
I
he
don't
went Southie the whole time?
probably. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what technique. I mean, I don't think we're gonna
Only
know.
only because Crawford. Everybody was telling me before the EJ fight, Bud was going to fight EJ orthodox to be able to negate Errol's lead hand. But no, very first minute of the fight, Crawford came out southpaw. I think I want to see if he does the same thing against Canelo. I think that matters. Do you think he's going to fight him southpaw?
I think so. I think he switches though, he'll switch in between combinations. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's just an extra tool in the tool bag for him. But what better sparring are you going to get than somebody like Boots that can
Does
mimic
both.
that? He's a
Exactly.
phenomenal
Yeah.
switch hitter, has power in both hands, super athletic, big. He's bigger than Bud. No, and just to
He looks
answer Mars' question from before, like Charlo versus Bud at 154, I think I would
yeah.
have Charlo. I think I would have Charlo. Look, Bud's only had one fight at 154, close
Yeah.
against Najimov. I mean, Charlo.
The Charlo last name still upsets me because we got robbed. Every now and then, as fans, we get robbed of like prime years of really talented guys for whatever reason or another. Whatever happens in their lives, these are just young men figuring life out as we all are, right? But you're right, Charlo when he was special at 54.
He's
Like he
big
had
at 154. Don't forget, like Bud started at 35. He didn't start at welterweight. Went to
no
140. Went to welterweight. Like
35.
Charlo started at 154. Been at 154. Jumped up to 168, and
Mm-hmm.
still felt the power and was on the back foot almost the entire fight. And
Yeah,
now Bud's not gonna. I don't
but psych,
anticipate Bud fighting like that. But
but
look,
yes, a lot of that, that back foot thing, I mean, that's a psychological, that's a choice that a fighter makes. You know what I mean? That's a choice. That's a choice he made. I don't know how much of that was Canelo. Granted, he felt Canelo's power, but there's other guys, different part of his career. Charlo probably would have made a different choice and fought him differently.
Charlo's the better boxer. I would say Bud's a much better fighter, but that would kind of be Bud's undoing, right? Charlo would have a style. You would think he could stick and move, use his footwork, use his size. But Charlo didn't do that against Canelo. Bud fights in the pocket. Bud likes to engage. When have you ever seen Bud put on a boxing clinic?
Mm-mm. That's what I mean, and that's why this is a very
That's what
intriguing
people are
match.
telling me. He's going to put on a boxing clinic, but Bud doesn't fight like that.
No,
Bud doesn't fight like that. All of Bud's fights at welterweight, they haven't gone the distance. So he
you know what
doesn't.
I'm excited to see because I think if you had to ask which fighter, Canelo or Bud, is going to have to revert to a plan B first, I'm excited to see Bud's plan B because I think Crawford's going to have to make some decisions. I'm also interested in hearing Bomac's advice in the corner because Bomac gets a lot of love. I got a lot of love for him, but there's sometimes in certain fights, in certain moments of his career, sometimes a coach doesn't want to tell the hard truths to a fighter. And I was talking with my one buddy about this with each camp. Reynoso has been guilty of this as well, not wanting to tell Canelo sort of, things that could either, be beneficial for him at the risk of getting on Canelo's bad side. I think Bomac has done that a couple times within fights. I don't know if Bud goes out there and tries to bully Canelo off jump and thinks that he's just gonna, pull another EJ and not get touched with that power of those counters. I'm excited to see that adjustment. Is my whole point. I want to see Bud to see if he can make an adjustment against Canelo. I think he's the one that's going to have to before Canelo.
Of course, yeah. I don't see. I think Canelo's going to do what Canelo does, and he's going to press. He's going to be on the front foot. And someone put in the chat, I saw that he did put a boxing clinic on Postal, but that was 140. I'm talking recently at
As of
147.
late,
I mean, recently he fought Sean Porter, and that was a dead even fight. He dropped 4 rounds to Sean Porter up until the knockout. If you're dropping rounds to Sean Porter, a small Sean Porter, if you're having 50-50 exchanges with Sean Porter, I mean, you can't fight like that against Canelo to have 50-50 exchanges. He's not used to taking the power of a 168 pounder. So even though he's going to gain weight, I don't know. There's too many question marks with Bud. But I know
right?
people people are going to like him as the underdog, and I get it. I see it. But I mean, it's tough. How does he win? I need somebody to explain that to me. How does he
The
win?
path to victory. Guys, listen to the chat. The boys who follow the Discord. That has if you're putting $1 of your hard-earned money on any of these fights, and you're picking a guy, and you're not picking him with a path to victory, you got to change. You're probably losing more than you're winning. You know what I'm saying?
Sean Porter beat Usyk in the amateurs. Yeah,
He
yeah,
did.
we
He
know
did.
that. We know
Yeah,
that. Yes, yes.
that's kind of the one that everybody brings up. Porter beating Usyk in the Amis. So pulling a William Skull. Goat, what's up, buddy, in the chat? I don't see Crawford winning. Been saying this forever. Crispy Chris been hitting some gnarly parlays in the Discord. Pulling a William Skull.
I
That's the
can't see
thing.
it.
I don't either.
He's too prideful. Like, this is the
It's not
thing.
in him. I
Bud's
don't think he
gonna
has it in him.
no. Bud will go out on the shield. Bud's gonna come to fight, and if you touch Bud and he gets hurt, he's gonna engage with you. He's not gonna go on the back foot. William
No.
Skull, I tell people, oh, Canelo couldn't cut off the ring with Williams. All right, I remember when they made the fight with Inoue, fan favorite, many people, with Paul Butler. Paul Butler was supposed to be out of there in a round or two. He couldn't. What are we saying now? Inoue's regressed. He's not good. He couldn't touch Paul Butler until the 11th round. He didn't get Paul Butler out of there.
Forgot about that
But
fight.
because sometimes fighters, when they choose to survive, you're gonna tell me William Skull didn't choose to. Sometimes,
It's
they're
a
not
choice.
gonna. You're not able to catch somebody when they have great footwork and they choose to survive. Paul Butler was surviving. Well,
Yeah.
anyways, he doesn't know how to cut the ring off now because Paul Butler, who shouldn't even be in the ring with him, survived 11 rounds. So I'm not putting too much with the William Skull because I don't expect Bud to fight like William Skull.
Yeah, I don't think he can. I don't like. I don't not skill wise. I don't think it's in his DNA to fight like William
No.
Skull.
Are you kidding me?
It
No way.
and so this is gonna sound crazy too, but I don't know. People are throwing like the draw thing out. Yeah, I don't see for a draw to take place. It's gonna have to be a close fight. I know the odds are sexy. People are like always hedge your bets with a draw. I've seen you hit on draws multiple times, especially with where boxing has trended the last quarter of the year, the last 3 months. Is that in your mind at all? Do you see because you're still gonna have to sell me on a path to a draw? How that means that you know in a pro, Canelo's gonna get if say he wins more rounds, he's gonna get short sided on the cards, or people think that Bud's gonna win more rounds and he's gonna get short sided on the cards.
I mean, look, at Bud's best, he's a counterpuncher. He is phenomenal, special, not even elite, right? When I rate like boxers, I have good, great, elite, and then special. Special, I can count on, one or two hands. But is that? But is special. He has special timing. He can time in fighters in between shots. That's what makes him his timing, his speed, his athleticism. All those things together, they're off the charts. But for him to do that, he's going to have to do what he does with all his other fights. He stands in the pocket and he has to be able to counter you from a fighter throwing a shot. Canelo's going to have to throw the shot and he's going to have to be willing to stand in that fire and counter him, right? Because I don't see Bud sticking and moving, staking his jab out, creating the offense himself. I think he's going to need Canelo to do that. And one thing with Canelo, man, he has very good head movement. He has a very good guard. It's not easy always to hit him. So if he's going to be willing to counter Canelo, he's going to be eating some shots. So with that being said, is he going to win those 6 rounds doing that? If he feels the power, say the power is real, he's going to feel the power. Like, is he going to be willing to stand in the danger zone, right? Is he going to be willing to stand and take that fire? I don't know. People are gonna. I don't know if I can answer that. People are gonna have to figure that out themselves. Listen, he was feeling the shots from 154 Majimov. He said it himself. Like, I felt the power from Majimov. Bud said that. If you felt that from Majimov, Canelo's not cracking like Majimov. He's cracking a lot harder.
Yeah, guys, we've already surpassed an hour. TJ, we always talk. You and I could riff back and forth on boxing all day, and then our ladies will probably leave us. But before I let you go, I want you to give the chat maybe something to look for on this card. Maybe something we didn't mention. Make it around, because a lot of the boys are here to make money on boxing. I know you don't believe in locks. Maybe some smart money, maybe an outcome. Do you see said fight going the distance? Do you think that there's a good chance said fight is going to end early? Anything that's popping off of the paper?
Man, these fights, This is how I see it. When you tend to have very competitive fights tend to go the distance. I could see a lot of these fights going the distance. So I could see if you have a feeling on a certain fighter, maybe I could see a draw happening in one of these fights too. So maybe points value and draw on certain fighters. But right now, I don't have anything that's. I mean, I'm still in the midst of doing
Film
tape and
study.
trying.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
told you earlier, like I don't have. There's so many of these fights can go either way. Like we just
yeah.
broke a bunch of them down, making cases for both. I have certain leans in fights, but you're not going to put like serious money on the lean, right? So
Yeah, and I've noticed like a lot of people that I know who make good coin off of their knowledge of the sport. That comes down to like almost live betting, or like once we get to fight night, something you see or something that you feel out in like the weigh-ins. So yeah, guys, just to clarify, this is just TJ and I riffing right now, seeing what we see. But it's only Tuesday here in Sydney. It's Tuesday and it's Monday night in America. We got a whole week. A lot can happen.
oh yeah, no, I got a lot. Like I have a lot to talk about the Canelo and the Bud card too, especially previous fights that I've bet where fighters have gone up and down in weight. Like I've been betting Canelo and Bud for such a long time. But in regards to what you just said with the live betting, that's definitely going to be a play for me. When you have such close odds, like sometimes the value isn't in the pre bet. You can, if you have a good eye for boxing, you can see possibly after the first or second round,
Oh, it's
maybe
swinging.
where the fight's going to be trending to. Whether it's a certain fighter, just hey, this is a bad stylistic matchup. I feel like this guy's going to win, or maybe this feels like this fight's going to go the distance. So either they're not hurting each other, or maybe some guy looks vulnerable and he's going to get knocked. Hey, this isn't going to go the distance. So there's so many plays you can make when you have an even fight like this, where the value maybe isn't in the pre bet, where you can live bet it.
All right, TJ, man, I appreciate your time, brother. Thanks for stopping by. I'm going to be messaging you on the Discord, and all the boys on the chat, they appreciate you too. Guys, if you haven't already, hit subscribe, like this video, click the link that's been in the comment section below. Join the Discord. We'll be here all week, brother.
All right, see you guys.
Later. All right, boys, I'm going to stay on a couple minutes to take some of your questions. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. Crispy Chris Goats in the house. David says Caleb Plant was arguably beating Canelo for the first half of their fight. I think he was. Y'all think Caleb is better than Crawford and Plant gasses? Crawford is a winner. Canelo struggles with good boxers. Uh, David, I think your point on Caleb beating Canelo early, it might be akin to Amir Khan beating Canelo early, but totally different. We know that Canelo was setting up Amir, that multiple round setup to catch him in the middle of the ring with that counter is a little bit different from Caleb fading. Um, I don't like doing boxing maths. Do I think Caleb is a better boxer? Is better than Crawford? No, but Caleb's much bigger, dude. Caleb's a big boy. Physical wise, big dude. And Canelo stopped him. You know what I'm saying? That should be where your head should be. Caleb's a massive dude, and Canelo's an undersized 168 guy, and Canelo stopped him. It was his last stoppage, 2021. Where was Bud fighting in 2021? You remember? You know what I'm saying? 4 years ago, he fought EJ in 23 at 47. When did he go up to? When did Bud go up to 47? What was Bud's last fight at 40? Let's answer that. So, just to have a little bit of a educated debate on that, because you bring up a good point, David. I know where you're getting at. So let's see. Crawford in 2021 fought Sean Porter at 147. So yeah, his first fight, his last fight at 40 was years ago against Ndongo, and his first fight at 47 was against Horn in 2019. So yeah, stayed at 147 for a while. When I think of Bud Crawford, guys, I think of a welterweight. I think of a 147 guy. I don't think of you can't categorize him as a junior middleweight. He had one fight at junior middleweight, and he's definitely not a super middleweight. So that's where my hesitation. I'm a huge Bud Crawford fan. I'm gonna be cheering for Bud Crawford, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm betting on him. I'm probably betting on Canelo, but I'll be cheering for Bud. That's not, that's not a fact yet. Boacek over Boacek in the over, Steven Nelson in the over could be a great lock. I'm gonna wait till some of these prop bets get released, guys. I'm gonna wait till some of the odds and some of the options to build our parlay, our method of victory. But guys, we have Dana White Contender Series tomorrow. I'll be giving you my picks for Dana White Contender Series today in the Discord. So if you haven't joined the Discord, hit the link in the bio. What's up, Tenny Alaji? If Mabili fight is a 12 rounder, do you got? So guys, the Mabili fight's a 10 rounder. Crispy Crisp. Plant is a good clincher. Skeezy, what's up? Anyway, by knockout in the over 6.5. I like it. Skeezy, I think I'm going to play a knockdown prop in the Inoue versus MJ fight. I know it's easy. Some people are saying MJ could beat Inoue. I don't see it. And then Inoue fans are going to talk about the Tapales fight that MJ took Tapales to the cards and Inoue starched him. I don't think you can make too much of that either. I think we're in for a great fight. MJ's the real deal. MJ is a great boxer, high level boxer. He's going to want to fight. He's going to want to punch with Inoue. It's going to be a fun fight. I always play knockdown props in Inoue fights. So maybe I'm going to parlay, over X amount of knockdowns. LP, what's up? Big ups, Chilltown. Every time, super sharp guy. Yeah, Chilltown's a beast, guys. Chilltown's a great dude. Shout out to the chat because it's only through the chat, you guys introduced me to Chilltown. Guys, I started going lives 2 months ago. I didn't know TJ. I just met TJ when I started doing live streams by some of you boys tagging him in my lives. DJ, damn, you was live this whole time. Yeah, man. Yeah, bro. It's fight week, baby. DJ, appreciate you with the super chat, brother. Good show. Thank you, sir. This is my passion, guys. I'm here for you boys. Adu, the distance for Canelo, Bud doesn't seem like such a lock after that chat. Like you said, Bud will get hit. Can he handle the Canelo power, boys? I don't know if he can handle that power because he's going to be there to get hit. Sean Porter, punch props to the move. What up with it? Terry, yo, Johnny. This is the last question, and then I got to dip, boys. I got to train today. Tenny Alajay, if Mabili fight is a 12-rounder, do you guys see it being under 10.5? So that's a hypothetical. So if the Mabili fight was going 12, could I see it going under 10? I can. I'm playing a knockdown prop. I can't wait for those props to hit the streets. One of my most excited, anticipated props are when my book releases the knockdown props for Lester versus Mabili. Obviously, I'm taking Mabili on the money line, but I like a knockdown prop in that. And we got a lot of work to do, boys. I'm gonna be uploading Inoue versus MJ. Tomorrow, I'm gonna be uploading Steven Nelson versus Santana. That's gonna be a fun fight. I'm gonna be uploading Callum Walsh versus Vargas. And I might get Bud Crawford and Canelo out first, just to let it simmer on the channel, because those always get a lot of views. I appreciate everybody tapping in. I do lives every single day. This is my second live today. Guys, I just uploaded my prediction of the Serhii Boacek Brandon Adams fight. So that's on the playlist, Fight Predictions. Make sure you check that out.